Hello, I'm Michael Wybrow, and in this video I'm going to go over the weekly topics and exercises that we have in 3178 in order to give you a better idea of the sort of things we cover and the things that you could expect to use in your assignment app. So if you have a look at the overview, you'll notice that a lot of the fundamentals are in the first 6 weeks, and that's things like the basics of Swift, the how we build multiple view apps and transition between views, some design considerations, and basic ways of showing data that you would have in most apps like table and collection views, how we store user data, and how we communicate with web services and can use Firebase platform for syncing. In the later weeks, you'll see there are topics that will be relevant to some apps but not others. So if you've got a map or geolocation component, then we cover that in week 7. Things like playback of audio and video and image displays in week 8, use of motion sensors and gestures week 9, some other useful views like page scroll views, and then dealing with notifications and linking between apps is in week 10. And then in week 11 and 12, we cover testing and accessibility and localization, and also talk about how you publish apps on the store. So for this week, I've already talked to you about what the sort of topics we cover. The lab exercise is your first app. It's a simple sort of Hello World iOS app. In week 2, we cover the model view controller design pattern. We look at storyboards, which is how we create views in Xcode and interfaces. We build multi-screen applications and understand transition between views and how we can pass information between these different screens. We also cover a couple of methods of navigation. Firstly, a navigation controller and also a tab bar controller. So these are different ways of organizing information within your app. And we'll also cover the concept of protocols and delegates, which is necessary for working with multiple screens. And the lab exercise is a multi-screen app that makes use of what's been covered here. For week 3, we talk about user interfaces and design guidelines, and we start working with table views and also talk about collection views. And table views are really fundamental. I don't think I've ever seen, other than maybe a few games, there's almost no iOS apps that don't have a table view in them. So our lab exercise is a multi-screen app using table views and also delegation to pass information between different views. For week 4, we cover core data, which is Apple's way of persisting user information or user data. And we cover, how we create a core data schema, how we can define objects and use them from Swift code, how we add and remove them, how we can fetch data and update table views based on core data. And for this one, we take our Lab 3 app and we convert it to use core data so that things that are done by the user in the app are persisted. In week 5, we look at how we can talk to web services and read JSON data and use that within our app. We also show how we can display HTML views, interactive HTML views within the app. And the lab exercise is an app that gets book data from an online API and displays that within the app. So you can see the complexity of these apps builds week to week. For week 6, we look at the Firebase Cloud Platform, which is Google's way of providing syncing within apps, providing storage for files, handling authentication with a number of well-known types of sign-in. And this will convert the Lab 4 app to use Firebase so that it's the information is not just persistent on the device, but persistent across instances of the app running on different devices. For week 7, we look at MapKit, and we also understand how we can use location services to get the GPS location of the user and do things like geofencing, which is triggering events when the user enters or leaves certain areas. And for this, we also build a split screen app for storing and showing locations. And split screen app shows how you can build an iPhone app that can also work on iPad and be used as a Mac app as well. For week 8, we look at how we can use the camera on the device to capture images, and we also see how we can access the user's photo library. We also see how we can do audio and video playback, both from local files on the device, but also from internet content that we then play for the user. And for this, the lab exercise is, or there's two of them. One is an offline photo library app, and the second one is a simple messaging app. For week 9, we look at gestures, and we also look at accessing sensors on the device, specifically the compass, gyroscope, and accelerometer. And we also show an ARKit demo, which is something, augmented reality, that uses a lot of the built-in sensors on the device. And for this one, the exercise is an app that allows the user to spin and swipe through various images using gestures and also using the sensors. In week 10, we introduce page scroll views. We also use or show how we can use notifications, local notifications on the device, and use deep linking to directly access particular parts of the app. And for this week, we extend on some of the previous work and show how we can use Firebase Auth storage and Firestore for syncing, which is something that many users use in their assignment apps. For the last couple of weeks, we don't have a lab exercise, but we cover testing, unit tests, and also UI tests, and see how these are both necessary but also useful to iOS app developers. And we look at third-party libraries. In week 12, we talk about accessibility, which is not something, and localization, which are not things we necessarily expect you to have in your app, in your assignment app, but they are nice things that we would expect in most production apps that would be released on the store. And on a related note, we're going to look at how you actually go about publishing your applications on the store, and I'll show you the interface, the website that Apple provide for doing that. Okay, thanks for watching.